world blind. Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
Yeah, there's no mercy in this world, just hunger, thirst.
Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to, I can see a little bit of MVP, the MVP discussion, and obviously you saw by the title and thumbnail. But before we get into it, if you guys are new, make sure you hit the like button and hit that subscribe button. And with that being said, we're just gonna hop right into it. So, wow. Well, I want to say I'm not gonna say it's about time, but it's really well deserved by Joel Embiid, finally named the 2022-23 NBA MVP. And quite frankly, it's been a long time. Well, I'm not gonna say a long time coming, but it's been, the dude worked his ass off, try to show that he's the most valuable player in the NBA. Now, that's not taking away anything from Jokic or Giannis, but I think, Embiid really showed this year, throughout this entire season, he was just the better player out of the three, which always has been, but the last 3 years has always came down to Embiid, Jokic, and Giannis. And, the fact that he was named back-to-back scoring champion, averaged, I think, which is slightly over 33 points a game, a little bit over 10 rebounds per game, almost 5 assists per game. So, the dude actually had numbers to really show for it. And to be quite honest, though, I mean, I could not be more happier for him. The last 2 years finishing up as the runner-up to the, let's put on Jokic. And it's going to be funny that Jokic fans are pretty much saying now that say, oh, that's fraud and what all this bullshit. But in the end, Jokic, the way that I see this is the fact that Jokic did miss some time, and that really did hurt his case a little bit. There's a lot of things that, from what I've understood, it can go into MVP votings, like how many games you played, how much time you missed. And, as much as, and there's going to be some Giannis fans, saying, or those, well, I should say, delusional, shall we say, but for me, someone who has watched the Sixers a long time, couldn't be more happy for Joel. Had a bit of a rocky start to his career, sure, but the last 3 years, I mean, the dude's been, worked his tail off for a guy that. I think I would say in a way not count it or say count it out. But I would say, it's just, I think it's, like I said, it's well deserved by Joel, in my honest opinion. Now, it's just like people say, oh, it's like a pity MVP. To be honest, no, I don't know what the hell you're smoking. Because number one, if you look, I like the eye test says for itself. I mean, if you look at there's compare and and differences between Jokic. I mean, look, all three guys, shall we say? But and now I'm seeing some Laker fans already bitching and complaining, say, "Oh, LeBron was robbed and whatever this bullshit excuses that Lakers fans are putting together." But that's just the way that I see it. Now, what I mean, and that's actually I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. Before we get back to Joel Embiid, the one thing that people, what do you call it? These like LeBron fans are basically say, that he's robbed. Honestly, no, he was not robbed. The reason why I say that, I mean, if you looked at most of this year, he missed a good portion amount of time, and he was up there in terms of the MVP. Or if it was early in the season, yeah, you can make the argument he could have been the MVP. But as it went down the stretch, you've seen, LeBron just kind of fall out of the race. Missed out a significant amount of time, and quite frankly, it really did not really hurt or say improve his case the way that I look at it. But now the thing with Joel Embiid is, yeah, I mean, obviously, did everything he could, especially in the regular season. Now, obviously, not playing not right now in the postseason, but I will leave it with this. Like I said, Joel Embiid really well deserved it. I think he really outshined. If you looked at the regular season, really outshined Jokic. Definitely outshined Giannis. I don't, no disrespect to Giannis, but Giannis is, well, how do I even describe this? I'm not saying really. I mean, look, Giannis can do what he can for this team, but it also sends to the fact that, yeah, Joel does not have the perfect supporting cast around him, sure. But, Joel Embiid, for me, it's just, it really showed that, he really tried to put in the work and become, try to really work for that MVP. It's, in terms of the Philly sports, we haven't seen an MVP. So since like Bryce Harper a few years back, I mean, damn. But that's kind of regardless. But Joel, though, had a rocky start to his career, missed his first two seasons with that foot injury, and I think that was kind of the risk that the knew what the Sixers were kind of bringing him in. But looking at how he has kind of progressed the last few years at this point, and and cruising at like his, had better, and let's be putting up numbers where, somewhere you see the old-time greats, a guy like Will Chamberlain for a perfect example, and some guys that, you never expect Joel Embiid to be up there. And, Oscar Robinson, not Oscar, but, had comparisons to Hakeem Olajuwon, the way how he's really skilled for a big man, good shooting. It has 450+ point games. The dude can give you 30+ on a good night. I mean, even though there's sometimes where he's not as nice, he can give you at least 25, give you a double most of the time, like say 25 and 10 or 25, or like say 27 and 12, where he has done that a few times where, and then really helps this team win. And, really good on the defense, has been very solid on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, it's like, I think a lot of times I don't think really people take in consideration, defense is also a big part in sports, and basketball in particular. And I think that's where a lot of times, I'm going to say, to say not voter fatigue, but I just feel like, Joel, I think really tried to, and like, especially this year, or when this year started, like, was on a mission to, try to put the league on notice, where it's like, look, if you're going to, like, I pretty much, in a way say, I'm not coming up short once again for the third straight year in a row. It's really not, will you like it or not? And sorry if you're going to be one of those arrogant Denver Nuggets fans who are say, oh, the dude's a fraud or winning a fraud. Then again, you could also make the argument that Jokic won by technicality. So you really think that it should be, should just have that one MVP, but that's here nor there. But, like I said, congratulations to Joel Embiid for really working his ass off, try to, and really help try to get this team where we are, yeah, finish the third seed in the Eastern Conference, sure. But I mean, the dude has done a lot, especially with guys like Maxey and Harden, Tobias Harris, D'Anthony Melton coming off the bench along with Jalen McDaniels. I mean, not the greatest supporting cast by any stretch of the means, but he's got guys that can really, and he's not that bad of a facilitator as people are not making him out to be. But regardless, I mean, I really do think Embiid, as people will say, the hard work pays off for Joel Embiid. Now, if you don't think it that way, I don't know what to tell you. Especially if you're going to be one of those Laker fans saying, or pretty much saying, they say, oh, LeBron was robbed, and knowing that the fact that, and going back to what I said earlier about that, is the fact that if you looked at down the stretch, yeah, LeBron has missed some time, a good, I would say, a significant amount of time, but he does have missed a portion of time because look, LeBron. I'll give him credit where credit is due, pretty much playing at the highest level at the age of 37. But how much longer does he have left is that's the biggest question. Now, if you looked at how the earlier the season turned out, yeah, LeBron was kind of looking barely on the outside of the top 5 in terms of MVP, consideration early. But as the season progressed, and we've seen guys like Joel, Jokic, Giannis did their normal, just took care of business what they normally would do. Like, if you looked at the last couple of years, it's always been that way. The last, since the 2020 to 21 season, 2020, this season, hell, even in the season, 2019 to 2020 season, it's just, it is what it is. I think Embiid, look, back-to-back scoring champion, averaged a little over 30 points a game the last two years. Double-digit rebounds. I mean, it's kind of the dude has done a lot to really, showcase that he can be an MVP caliber player. And this, like I said, that's the way that I look at it. And to be quite honest, like I said, couldn't be much more happier for him because, I mean, let's be real, look, like I said, no disrespect to Jokic and guys like Giannis, but you have to take into consideration where you have, look, and especially with how Giannis was. I mean, and I don't think Giannis was not that bad in the regular season, but it's just like, I don't think it was really that much of enough to point where, I mean, he's like, Ezra has like 2 MVPs to his name. The dude is still a phenomenal player for a guy of his size. I'll give him that. But looking at Jokic, yeah, the only thing that people always compare the two between Jokic and Embiid is always the passing and, these advanced analytics. These advanced stats sometimes are just, for me, I feel like they're super redundant as hell. And usually for me, I would think that was the eye test is my biggest way I could, because for me, I'm not like a stickler for the advanced stats, because for me, who gives a fuck about the advanced stats, Raptor, like this, like stats like Raptor and this type of bullshit that they would pretty much have to go off of. But if you looked at the eye test, though, you can see there's some good differences between both Jokic and Embiid. Now, granted, both have really good skill sets for the center spot. I'll give them both that, and same with Giannis too. Well, I think that Giannis is more of a center / power forward, depending on who you're asking. So, but like I said, the only differences between Jokic and Embiid is pretty much the passing game. Yeah, sure, you can make the argument for that. But in terms of, you've seen, like, at times Jokic sometimes stat pads a little bit. And, even though I know people are going to make the argument, say, oh, like he stat pads in the strip. For all I care, I could care fucking less about that. Like I said, I have no disrespect towards Jokic. Never have been. But I feel like Embiid and the way how he played, and especially how this year has gone on. I mean, especially if you look at that game again, when he dropped like 40, almost 50 points on Jokic's head, in the first meeting. Again, when Denver came here to Philadelphia, obviously we wound up getting that win in the game. I mean, people, and sometimes, and I think a lot of times, I think that kind of really sways a little bit voters sometimes. If you just look at the eye test says a lot than what the stats are giving you. That's the way that I look at it, from not just from a sports perspective, but just in a way, not saying, Jokic was not deserving of it, but if you really think about it, the way how Embiid played this year, I mean, it garnered more first place, I think 73 to overall 73 first place votes compared to 15 for Jokic. I know Giannis got a little bit, actually. Actually, I know my buddy Key actually has a what do you call it? Like the screenshot of it. What up, crazy dudes? Yeah. Funny enough, actually, I want to kind of talk about that a little bit too. Actually, surprising the fact that we pulled off a win in game one was surprising to say the least. Now, you're probably going to people are going to tell me, say, "Oh, like, do you have any faith in the team?" I do to an extent, but there's like that one portion where my thing with Doc Rivers. Yeah, I saw that, but I'll talk more on that probably another time. But like I said, like I do have faith in my team, sure, but that's like that little 10-15% on this, where I'm very uncertain where Doc Rivers is going to in a way screw everything up, and that worries me a little bit. But the fact we took care of business, actually surprisingly, against a team like Boston, who for the longest time this franchise has, except for 1983, where we actually, I think we really took care of business easily from one of my understanding from when I've looked over that series. But regardless, Boston is one of those franchises we have a hard time figuring out for whatever reason for the last handful of years, except for our championship year in 1983. But yeah, I mean, I know I've seen a lot of people want us to beat Boston. Are we going to sweep them? Probably not. I think we definitely could probably win 5-6 games at the most, because I think Boston's too good of a. But then again, we've seen Boston sports really. Well, let's be real, have not really shown out too much. Sorry, Bruins fans, I really had to put you on the spot, but you are probably an infamous example of not say getting swept, but collapsing in like the worst way possible. And the Celtics, yeah, no pushover, but it's funny that Boston fans already are starting complaining now after, especially the one screenshot I've been seeing going around, especially by Boston fans, pretty much say, "Oh, they're going to be bitching and complaining because we won through like they missed a shot clock violation bullshit." But yeah, there's an argument to be made, yeah, but. Look, I have no disrespect towards Boston. That's the one franchise we have like I said, I always had a hard time figuring out. And the fact we did, and not to have won it without Embiid, that really says a lot. And that's the thing too. People are going to say, I think that like people, I've seen some like say, this team is better off without Embiid, which, to be quite honest, I really don't agree with that. Yes, I know the record without Embiid says otherwise. And the numbers really do show, like, yeah, we do somehow play, like, even when you give MB some of the rest days that because let's be real, 82, like playing over through an 82 game season is not say grueling. And then, this load management bullshit's kind of really ruined the game, in my honest opinion. And to be honest, yeah, I think 15-7 without Embiid, if I'm not mistaken, like 11 and something. I can't remember what the record is. But we actually had an above 500 record without Embiid this year. Hypothetically, we give Embiid, like I say, a game or two off, and we still find a way to pull out. We still know how to win games even without him. And I think that's where, yes, I mean, in terms of the players on paper, yeah, not the flashiest and not the prettiest names on paper, but the fact we pulled out a win in Boston of all places speaks a lot. It really does speak a lot of this team. And knowing Doc, like I said, still can't trust Doc at all. And because of his that's just the way that it's just, I really just don't like it. I'm the one kind of person that's like, if we somehow get past the second, the biggest test for me to trust Doc Rivers, if we get past the second round. If we do that, then I will change my mind on Doc Rivers. But until then, it still stays the same. It's the same thing when I did with Brett Brown, before Doc Rivers even came to this building. But, Max is kind of, and that's another thing too with this team as well. I think where Embiid, kind of really helps this team in a way when he's not available, but he kind of helps these guys, And same with Harden too. You got to give Harden where credit is due. At the same time, wearing pretty much, having to get guys have to step up in a way. I mean, if you looked at game one, Maxey had 26 points. And you also have Harden, let's be real, career year in the postseason, had to drop 45 on a really good Boston team. And, the biggest key for me was, especially in this series, is try to shut down both Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I think that's kind of what we did from what I've seen from the Boxer, kind of in a way did, I think, in the second half. And the fact that even going into the halftime too, when I looked at the scores, like the fact it was like a 3-point deficit at the half, it's like that really speaks volumes. Yeah, because in terms of the talent wise, that's still in favors in Boston because they're a loaded team. But we have seen in certain times where Boston, when either Brown or Tatum do not really get nothing going, we've seen this team like Boston, they showed their flaws, and if you looked at the series against the Atlanta Hawks showed Boston can be beat. And Boston, as people are trying to, and it's funny, some, NBA fans are trying to paint Boston's like an invincible team that can really run the Eastern Conference. I mean, any team can be beat. I think a lot of times. I think a lot of times people really tend to really miss in a way. I mean, we like I said, go back to that Atlanta series. You looked at it, that was a 5-game series. We've seen Boston at times struggle, and let's be real, Atlanta. I mean, outside of Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, Bogdanovich, for crying out loud. I mean, who else is like a flashy paper or player on paper can hold their own? And Atlanta showed it. You look, they won one game against the Celtics. But if you looked at how the series gone on between both the Celtics and the Hawks, the Hawks were very scrappy. They held their own against the Boston Celtics, and the Boston Celtics, they're good, but they're not as great as people are making out to be. And I've seen some Boston fans kind of criticizing Joe Mazzulla, not really in a way, I think I'm paraphrasing here, like grow a set, and in a way, not say growing a set of and the fact that Marcus Smart's making all the coaching decisions too is kind of funny. But absolutely, Aiden, absolutely. And it's like, and going back to Embiid though, like look at the last few years, put in the work. Now, the second MVP, because you missed some time due to injury, but that's still. I mean, I think a lot of times you could count that, but not count it at the same time. I think that's by technicality for Jokic. Now, the first time around, I mean, that really showed that Jokic in 2019, we got 2022, 23. Hang on, I'm trying to do the math here. I think the first time when Jokic won his MVP, numbers didn't really. I think right now, the numbers really did not lie between both Embiid and Jokic. And it's like, I think Jokic really showed he was a better player that year. I will have to admit it. Now, going into year two, and especially the way how this MVP race has been the last few years, like I mentioned before, it's, Jokic did what he could. I mean, averages are already triple-double. But in terms of the scoring, though, Embiid pretty much, can be that guy if you need a good scoring night, which, I mean, we have seen most of this season where he can drop 30, 40, an occasional 50 burger on some guys. And, a lot of times that really can, if I was a voter, like that would, take that into consideration, and just like I said, by the eye test alone really shows like, it's like, it really shows like, who's the better player. Now, I'm not saying Jokic is no slouch by any stretch of the means. That's not what I'm saying. So if you're going to be one of those guys, you're going to make me take this out of context. But I'm not saying I'm not hating Jokic by any stretch of the means. But, and that's what I'm saying too. Like, and I went to the Joker's rod, and then again, and Steve, like, no offense, but I think it does come to photo fatigue as well. That's what I'm saying too. Like for me, I really don't see the stats as the way that who's the better player. For me, look at the eye test. Look at what the eye test shows. Yeah, both. Jokic is still a good player. Don't get me wrong. Oh yeah, Scott. That's the big thing. The prize right now: win a fucking championship and finally end this goddamn drought. But yeah, it's like, look, no disrespect to the Nuggets at all for a team that, in a way, I always felt like it was look, except for this year, I always felt like they were like for me, I thought it was be like the underdog in the Western Conference, for a team that, just really could not put it together. It's an opportunity now. Look at the Western Conference. Absolutely, Scott. Yeah, the big thing is too win the big one. It's going to be the race to the big one is basically what it is. I mean, we still got to give Hart a lot of credit too. Not let that team celebrate. In a way, he pretty much said this team, look, job's not done. We got more work to do. Going into game 2, and it's on the possibility that Joel might play. But say, if he doesn't play in game 2, comes back game 3, I will have no issues with that. Number one, obviously, let him get more rest. Make sure that knee is good to go, even if he has to wear a brace. Sure, let that be in a way, What up, Earl? And that's the thing too. Like I said, I have no hate, disrespect towards, and if you're gonna be the Nuggets fans out there, and especially Steve as well. I know you're one of my best guys that you've been around for as long as you have. Like I've never been disrespectful of Jokic. And it's funny enough, actually, even looked at the second round, though. I mean, I even watched that draft class, even though I really never paid attention to the overseas type of players, but knowing that where Denver picked Jokic in that NBA draft, that was some good value. You had to give Nuggets that. It had to, unfortunately, look at the team they had around him. MBJ couldn't stay healthy. Jamal Murray had health issues. And obviously, people are going to make the say, could he replicate not coming out of the bubble? Which, for me, well, that's a whole. Yeah, I mean, look, rather be safe than sorry. But if his knee is, like, say, even though it may not be 100%, but he was, like, say, 70, 80, maybe 85, 90%, somewhere in that range, if he does play, well, I'm okay with that either. But I think the smart thing to do is kind of rest him. If he does decide to play, look, give him the credit. I appreciate the heart. If he plays well, I think that's really going to speak a lot for the Sixers team. Now, like I said before, now the bench depth, not the prettiest. Yeah, you know what? It seems, and that's why a lot of times I feel like people really knock on the NBA, and which I get you. I really do, Steve. Where in a way that's it's like I said, and that's why I think who called it out? I think it might have been Charles Barkley. It was Shaq. That was Shaq who called it. I think he said at one point where the NBA has kind of been very so sensitive in a way, It's sad, but that's, like I said, it is what it is. You really can't nothing to do for a change it. And that's, and like I said, that kind of brings me to my point with voter fatigue. That's where the voter fatigue kind of comes into play a little bit where, you have guys where, well, except for your Kendrick Perkins, that's a whole nother thing. And like I said, I mean, look, Jokic, MVP or not, this dude's still a phenomenal talent. Like I can't take that away from Jokic whatsoever. And for that, the rest of that Denver Nuggets team. But yeah, but like I said, I'm really not really going to really bash the these arrogant Nuggets. I mean, Steve, you've been like a really good loyal to this channel. Like I said, I know, look, Jokic and and Embiid and Giannis. I had to give Giannis some love too. I mean, if that's the case, like, okay, let me say it this way. If the Nuggets, let's see, hypothetically win the big one, and that'll be fantastic for Denver. So let's be real. Denver, in terms of the sport, especially with the sports, though, I mean, look, win the Super Bowl 50, and let's be real, the worst years of Peyton Manning's latter half of his career. Rockies, Sorry, Steve. I'm gonna have to call you. I'm gonna have to bash your Rockies a little bit. They have not been great as of recent in recent years. And Denver, well, it took Denver a while to finally figure out where their identity is. I'll give Denver that. I'll give Denver that. But all in all, Joel Embiid's the MVP. Out of the way, like that's the thing too. Like people, I think a lot of times people tend to wait to lose it. They say, oh, that's right, I forgot about the Avalanche. Thank you. That should tell you. And by the way, that should tell you how out of touch of hockey. Yeah, I've been very, very out of touch with hockey because as how bad my Flyers have been the last few. Yeah, what up, Randy? But yeah, I mean, it's look. Like I said, Steve, appreciate the reminder because that should tell you I've been out of touch for hockey for about a few years because let's be real, because the Flyers, well, it really ruined hockey for me. But I think a lot of times too. I think a lot of times, some people really tend to forget. It's a regular season award. Like right now, the goal, especially in the NBA, is to win a championship, regardless of these individual accolades or not. The goal overall is to win a championship. That's, it is what it is. I mean, if you looked at the Bucks, I mean, it took them. Well, let's be real. It's kind of sad that it actually took them almost over 50 years to freaking win their second one in franchise history, which blows my mind. No, seeing the cover, the Bruins. Yeah, I could imagine the Bruins seeing the Avalanche getting knocked out. I was not expecting that because I think I've seen some games. Yeah. Hey, look, it's the same way how we do it here in the Philadelphia area. You can only pick one this year, not just this year. And look at the years past. I mean, it's one or the other. Well, except if you look at last year, Philly got a little bit spoiled, with the Union in the MLS Cup final, Phillies in the World Series, and the Eagles in the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, we didn't do jack squat. So, I mean, I'll give it that. But overall, though, look, Nuggets still had a phenomenal season. Like I said, I cannot take anything. Yeah, that was a shocker. Going against Seattle. And look, Seattle had a good season as well. I'll give them that. But then again, I do think it is also stemmed to the fact that, the Avalanche are, I think, doing a deal with the Stanley Cup hangover. Plus, coupled with the fact that they lost some key pieces too from that Stanley Cup team. Darcy Kemper, Nazem Kadri go to the Calgary Flames. There's another guy that I missed, and I can't think of the top of my head at the moment. But yeah, it's kind of shocker. It's a shocker. But that being said, like I said, look, Joel was the MVP. No, I'm happy as well. But for me as a longtime Sixers fan since I've been watching this team since 2001, and unfortunately I had to go through the process there, and let's be real, that was just god awful. Wanted me to feel like I want to kill myself. But and seeing how this team, especially how Doc Rivers is the coach so far in this playoffs, which is shocking to say the least. I just feel like, damn. That's who I couldn't think. That's the one that, like I said, that should tell you. Like, I've been out of touch for hockey since after 2012, 2011, 2012. Because I'm never like a diehard, and you've seen them on the channel. And with me and Tyra being on the channel for the last soon to be 3 years come January, we hardly ever cover hockey because, the Flyers have been god awful. We don't have no hockey knowledge and stuff like that. And that's why I got my boy, Next Shift Randy to kind of help us out with that. And obviously shout out to my boy, Steve, as a Nugget, all things Denver. And yeah, because trust me, hockey is a hard sport for me to follow. It really has. So that being said, yes, I know kind of been off a lot of a tangent, but I enjoyed talking to each and one of you who's coming into the chat, whether coming from the All-Star Sports Network, my channel, or the Hardcore Sports, which is all linked down below. Yeah, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, yeah, the injuries will do it for you. But I admit, look, it was a tough series. It was a tough series against. And Steve, not gonna lie though, I actually watched bits and pieces of that series with you, with your Avalanche and the Kraken. It was a good series. I will say that it was a good series, but that some of the key injuries and obviously those key losses back in this past all season really kind of bite you in the ass in a way. But yeah, the Boston Bruins, like what the hell? Like I'm not like, what up, Jeff? I appreciate that, Randy. But I'm good. What up? I'm good. I'm good, Jeff. But and speaking of that, shout out to my boy Jeff as a Devils fan. Obviously winning the series 4-0. Yeah, goodbye Islanders. So it's going to be interesting to see what this rest of the hockey season looks, because obviously, like I said, I've done one hockey game, and let's be real, the Flyers fucking shit the bed against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, I've got some little bit of time to kill. But yeah, the Boston Bruins act is like, you're a 65 win team. I think it would have over 150 plus points in that Atlantic division, and yet somehow you go out in like the worst way possible. Then I was like, I have never seen any sports that I've watched over the years seen a collapse like the Boston Bruins. Well, unless you're the 2016 Guardian or these 2016 Cleveland Indians. Sorry, Indians or Guardians fans, because I have to brand. Damn, already? Holy crap. That's crazy. That is crazy. That should tell you, like, key players, not just players in general, just key pieces in general, no matter what team you looked at, it really does obviously not affect the outcome, but in a way, it really does change, I would say, the outcome of a team coming in, like, say, either playing the regular season or in the postseason. It's just, and the fact that, from what my understanding is, Patrice Bergeron could have played his last game as a Bruin. And the fact you lost, and let's be real, I don't think the Florida Panthers were. What up, Rafi? I appreciate that, Jeff. Like I said, but yeah, so. But that being said, I'm going to be live later on at 10 o'clock Eastern time for game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals between the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. So hope to see most of y'all there. If you guys do, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And that being said, I am out.